Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, news, and reviews. In today's video, we are going over possibly one of the best Nintendo 64 USB controllers. Let's get started. So to kick things off, raise your hand if you love Nintendo 64 controllers. Yeah, I didn't think so, me neither. But if you are in the market for a Nintendo 64 controller for the PC, this video might be helpful to you. Now if you're wondering, hey Mr. Sujano, you're not a big fan of Nintendo 64 controllers, why did you pick one up? You're probably not wondering at all, but anyways, I picked one up for my nephew. He's about 4.5 years old, and I'm building him a RetroPie. I wanted him to have something that was interesting to hold. And these Nintendo 64 controllers, in my opinion, are actually very interesting for a kid to hold. There's a lot going on here. I mean, he's only got two hands, so he's not going to have the full benefit of a three-handed controller, but hopefully he will enjoy it. Now, since he's 4.5, I didn't want to spend a whole lot on these controllers just in case he breaks them. So I headed over to Amazon and picked up two of the cheapest controllers I could find. I found a 2-pack for $24.99, and these are the, I think they're called Kiwi Tata N64 controllers. The listing states they're compatible with Windows, Mac, and the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi being the key thing here I was interested in. Now, to be honest, I did not expect a whole lot at all from these controllers, and I wasn't even planning on doing a review. But after taking a look at them and using them for a bit, I thought they were pretty review worthy. So here's the controller right beside a standard Nintendo 64 controller. On the surface, they look very identical, but they do have a few subtle differences. First and foremost, you're missing the nice Nintendo logo from the generic brand here, and the buttons stick out a little bit more. You can see the top shoulder buttons, the L and the R buttons, are raised slightly more on the generic controller. One of the things I like the most about this Nintendo 64 controller is the joystick. In my opinion, it is miles better than the N64 controller. Now, the N64 controller is, 14 years old, give or take, but at the same time, the joystick on the generic controller is just so much nicer. It's tighter, it feels more responsive, and it's not loose. There's not really too much dead zone at all when you compare it with the N64 controller. I think personally it's a better built joystick. The generic N64 controller also has a cutout for a rumble pack or a memory pack, but nothing in there to connect it to. You can actually just see the main board for the controller through that hole. I'm not quite sure why it's open like that, but it's there. The buttons on the generic N64 controller are raised slightly more than those on the official N64 controller. On top of that, the generic buttons are also a little bit clickier. Just for fun, here is an official N64 rumble pack. Let's plug this into the official N64 controller and then into the generic controller. Plugging this into the official N64 controller, it fits like a glove. No surprise here. Kind of surprisingly, this does fit into the generic N64 controller. It doesn't necessarily fit well because there's nothing for the rumble pack to plug into, but it does stick in there. If you do want to pull this out, you have to press the button on the controller to remove the rumble pack. Alright, so here is my Raspberry Pi up and running with RetroPie, and I do have the generic Kiwi Tata N64 controller plugged in. Let's scroll down to the N64 system here. I'll click on it, and let's try out Mario Kart 64. I think this is a fantastic game to test this controller. The joystick on this, I think, is my favorite thing about the controller. Honestly, in my opinion, it's better than the regular N64 joystick. The regular N64 joystick is, I don't want to say it's atrocious, but it's pretty bad. This is not a bad joystick at all. It's very responsive, very easy to get used to compared to the standard N64 joystick. Here is the C button from the generic controller. See if you can hear that. Here's the C button on the official N64 controller. You can see that, you can hear the difference between the two. The official N64 controller is a lot quieter than the actual generic one here. But the generic one is a lot newer, and that might have a lot to do with it. But at the same time, these buttons, if you don't like loud buttons, you're not going to like the buttons on the controller. Me personally, I don't find it to be an issue at all, especially if you're playing the game with friends or whatever. It's not really that big of a deal. Now, if you are interested in one of these controllers, I'm almost positive, I can say with almost certainty, that they are the exact same as the iNext controller. If I'm not mistaken, The picture here shows Kiwi Tata in the branding, but on the actual controllers I got, there is no branding. There's absolutely nothing written there. And in other pictures on this listing, there's also no branding. So I honestly think they're all the same, just named slightly different, but at the end of the day, these controllers I think are actually not too bad at all. Anyways, that is all I've got for today. Let me know what you think about this generic N64 controller in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.